Hello, my lovelies. Miss Debbie here to bring you some Christmas stories, or at least some Santa stories, and two that might be new to you, and one you've definitely heard of before. So let's get to it. Our first book is How to Hide a Lion at Christmas by Helen Stevens. So this is part of a series where the little girl has a pet lion. Isn't he sweet looking? I love the colors and I love the big book of it. It's nothing funner than a big book. All right, so this looks like a Christmas tree decorated with all kinds of ornaments. I spy a lion ornament, a Santa ornament, elves, snowmen, lights, definitely. And if you have a Christmas tree, what ornaments do you put on it? Definitely there's a Santa there somewhere and probably a snowman. It's just fun to see those special little things all the time. So this is the title page. Look at that beautiful spread of picture. How to Hide a Lion at Christmas by Helen Stevens, published by Godwin Books, a division of Henry Holt and Company in New York City. And here's the lion trudging through the snow. Looks like there's a path though, so it shouldn't be too hard. It was Christmas Eve, and Iris and her family were getting ready to set off for her Auntie Sarah's. Iris was very excited. "You'll love Christmas," she said to her lion. The lion had lived with Iris ever since he arrived in town, and all the townspeople loved him. So here they are getting ready. The lion is helping Iris wrap the presents. Mommy is, packing a suitcase. And with some boots and warm clothes. There's their Christmas tree. And Daddy and the little baby are just peeking out from the kitchen. So they're going to go to Auntie Sarah's. But Mom and Dad said the lion had to stay behind. "You can't take a lion on a train," said Mom. "The people in Auntie Sarah's town will be scared of him," said Dad. "Not if I hide him," said Iris. She tried squeezing him into her suitcase, but he was too big. She tried wrapping him up like a present, but he was too wriggly. She even tried covering him in decorations, but it was no good. And here they are saying, "It's just not going to work." And she tried squeezing him in the suitcase, wrapping him like a present, or decorating him. Here's the angel at the top. The angel at the top of the lion. Some people put an angel at the top of the tree. "Poor lion," said Iris. "He'll be so lonely all on his own." "Don't worry, he'll probably just sleep the whole time," said Dad. "And you can bring your toy lion to keep you company," said Mom. But Iris was still sad. She hated leaving her lion behind. The lion didn't like to see Iris unhappy. So when the family set off to the train station, he followed them. What a beautiful town that is during the snow at Christmas. And here's the family setting off for the train. Where's the lion? Oh, there's the lion. He's sneaking out from the side of the building. He will remain incognito. Nobody noticed him as he sneaked onto the train and found a good place to hide among the luggage. Iris was looking sadly out the window. The lion wanted to comfort her. But before he knew it, the train had rocked him to sleep. So he's on the luggage rack right above them. And Here he is, falling asleep right above them. Some trains have tables and also food where you can eat. I think in Scotland is where I found a train like that. He was still fast asleep when the family reached their stop and got off the train. Auntie Sarah was there to meet them. "Merry Christmas, Iris," she said. But Iris wasn't feeling very merry. She kept thinking about her lion at home all alone. Oh, do you see something through the train window? A paw and a tail? I think his paw fell down while he was sleeping. Sometimes when you sleep, doesn't your hand or your leg flop out of bed? Well, if only she knew, the lion wasn't home at all. He was still on the train and heading far, far away into the night. Wow. Looks like he's on the Polar Express. Should we read the Polar Express sometime? When the lion woke up, he was very confused. The train had stopped and everything was dark and quiet. Where had everyone gone? He crept down from his hiding place and tiptoed outside. He looked everywhere for Iris, but there was no one to be seen. He had to find her, but which way should he go? The lion looked back along the railway line. Perhaps if he followed the tracks, they would lead him to Iris. Here he woke up. Where has everyone gone? And he's at the train station at the end of the line. Look at the owl on top of the train station. Did you know that iris is the name of a flower? A very pretty and very fragrant flower. The snow was very deep, but he put one cold paw in front of the other until at last he saw a village. Look at this beautiful spread of pictures. Imagine if you have this book home and you're reading it and it's on the floor or you have it in your lap and you could open this picture and just enjoy it so much. And here's a close-up of a village that he saw. They must be in Scotland because of the trains and the villages. In the main square, he saw a huge tree festooned with colored lights, and people were singing all around it. Fa la 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 la, la 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 la. Perhaps Iris was singing with them. The lion crept closer. He found a hat and tried to blend in. So here he is looking at the carolers. Do you know anyone who sings carols on Christmas Eve? And here he is trying to blend in. He's got a Santa hat on. But when he joined in the singing, all that came out was a roar. A lion, screamed the people. And they chased after him, throwing snowballs. How rude. Luckily, lions can run fast. At least they didn't scream a lot. Lions are good at hiding in trees, too. As the crowd ran past, the lion noticed something in an upstairs window. It looked like Iris's toy lion. Perhaps this was Auntie Sarah's house? He had to be sure, but how could he check without waking everyone up? And here, after he had climbed the tree, the people are all running down the street past him. But when he was up in the tree, he saw the toy lion in the window. That made him think that might be Auntie Sarah's house. Just then the lion saw a very funny thing. A man in a red coat was climbing up and down all the chimneys. Wow, it's Santa. Wow. Maybe that's how the lion could get inside. What does a lion know about Santa? But before he could try, there was a huge whoosh and a ho ho ho, and the man in the red coat swooped right over his head. Santa was on his way somewhere else. The lion slipped, then all the snow slid off the roof, woomph, and landed on top of him. He couldn't even move a whisker. So he slid off the roof and then all the snow. Snow is quite heavy. So always be careful when you're playing in snow. In the morning, Iris woke up to find a new snowman in the garden. That's strange, she thought. Who would build a snowman overnight? She went outside to have a better look. It was a very odd snowman. It had a tail, and when she patted the tail, it waved at her. As fast as she could, she dug at the snow. She saw the tail. The tail waved at her, and then as fast as she dug, she could see a lion emerging. What a great Christmas. Her lion. You're here, said Iris. It's going to be the best Christmas ever now. And it was, even if the lion did eat everyone's Christmas dinner. Never mind, said Iris. Here he is eating all their dinner. Looks like they're having turkey and peas, spilled wine. But he didn't care. He ate everyone's dinner. And then they got pizza. The lion ate their Christmas dinner, and then they got pizza. And they had a very Merry Christmas indeed. I would recommend. This is a wonderful book to borrow. Read it any time of the year, just for these beautiful pictures. Our second book tonight is called Little Santa by John Agee. Little Santa, the story of Santa when he is a little boy. Here's a picture of little Santa getting dressed. I bet you have pajamas that look like that. Snugglies with a little hood. This is published by Dial Books for Young Readers, an imprint of Penguin Group. And here is Santa in front of his house. Look at all the logs. I guess the way they keep warm is burning logs in a fireplace. People in the country do that, especially in the North Pole. In the North Pole, in a little cabin, lived Mr. and Mrs. Claus and their 7 children, who were named Larry, Mary, Willie, Millie, Joey, Zoe, and Santa. That's a lot of children. They're all big kids too, except little Santa. Life was tough in the North Pole. Every day there was more wood to be chopped, more snow to be shoveled, another fish to be caught, a quilt to be mended, a fire to be stoked. The Clauses were just miserable. Too much work. So wood to be chopped, snow to be shoveled, fish to be caught. They drill a hole in the ice on the lake. A quilt to be mended, a fire to be stoked. All that work. And in the cold. Except for Santa, he loved the North Pole. He liked making snow angels and snowmen, decorating pine trees, and baking gingerbread cookies in the shape of people. Most of all, he liked sliding down the chimney. Well, he's a little boy. He was bored. So here he is making snow angels and making a snowman, decorating a fir tree, and making gingerbread men. And there he is sliding down the chimney. When there's no fire in the chimney, of course. Chimneys are dirty. They get soot. So when the Clauses decided to move to Florida, Santa was very sad. Won't you miss all the pine trees and the icicles and the miles and miles of snow? No, Santa, they said, we won't. That night, as everyone packed, there was a terrible blizzard. And here's Mr. Claus telling Santa, we're going to Florida. And here, as they're packing, a blizzard comes outside. That means a lot of snow. You can't even go out of the house in a blizzard. The next morning, the house was buried under a huge snowdrift. The Clauses were trapped. Yikes. What are we going to do? Said Mrs. Claus. I know, said Santa. I can shimmy up the chimney. Open the door and all that snow comes in. So Mr. and Mrs. Claus gave Santa some food and some snowshoes and sent him to get help. This is starting to get funny. The snowshoes are made so you can walk on top of the snow, because you know how hard it is when you step in snow with your boots. You're stuck, you can't move. After a long walk, little Santa came to a little branch. Ho, 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 said Santa. You must be the top of a tall tree. No, said a voice. I'm a very cold reindeer. Reindeer are real things, you know. They live in the north where it's snowy. True story. Santa dug the reindeer out of the snow. Gosh, said the reindeer, what are you doing out here? Santa told the reindeer about his family. Hop on my back, said the reindeer. We will look for help. And there's the reindeer that he dug out of the snow. Looks kind of like a moose, but it's a reindeer. Gee whiz, said Santa. You're a very special reindeer. Guess what? The reindeer could fly. I don't know if that's a true story or not. On a tall bluff, they saw a house. A light was on inside. Stop here, said little Santa. The reindeer landed, and Santa slid down the chimney. The house was full of elves. Wow. Holy snowflake, said the oldest elf. Who are you? Santa introduced himself and told the elves about his family. We can help, said the elf. We'll make shovels so we can dig them out of the snow. So this is the elves' workshop. And look at all the tools on the wall for making things. Making toys. In no time at all, the shovels were made. Now, Santa, said the elf, how will we get to your house? I've got a flying reindeer, said Santa. Wow, said the elf. And do you have a sleigh too? What's a sleigh? Said little Santa. Well, well, said the elf. I guess we'll build you one. He's just a little boy. He didn't know. And there they are building a sleigh. A sleigh, it doesn't have wheels, but it has runners so it can glide over the snow. The next morning it was finished. Santa hooked up the reindeer and everybody climbed aboard. Ready, said the reindeer. Ready, said Santa. Off they went to look for Santa's house. How exciting. Far away, the Clauses were waiting for Santa to return. Look at that winter sun. Not sunny enough to melt the snow. It was almost midnight when the dog heard a familiar noise coming from the chimney. Could it be? Look at how, like, kind of sad they are, just hanging around, stuck in the house. The dog heard the noise. Well, could it be somebody they know? Ho, 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 said Santa, I'm home. The Clauses were overjoyed, but there was more noise coming from just outside. Here he is, all sooty from coming down the chimney. And they are so glad to see their little boy. But there was more noise coming from just outside, and Santa opened the door. Look, everybody, said Santa. These are my new friends. Welcome, said Santa's family. And all the elves have snow shovels, and they've shoveled out the doorway. Well, it was a good year at the North Pole. The Clauses and the elves spent lots of time together, and life wasn't as tough as it was before. So this time, they had many elves to help them with the work, like the logs, so that they had time to play with and make snowmen, and more elves to help fish and decorate the fir trees. It's always fun to work together. Teamwork, I think it's called. But when winter came, Santa's family decided to move to Florida after all. Here they are. Goodbye, Santa. And what about Santa? He stayed behind. He doesn't look too unhappy, do you think? Guess what? You know the rest of the story. Little Santa grew up to become Santa Claus. Ooh, I love that story so much. Those are feel-good stories. We need a little Christmas. We need a little magic. Now, what do you think I'm going to read next? I know it's a story that you know. Well, I won't keep you in suspense. How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Now you might say, I watched the video, I saw the movie. Well, it's not the same as the book. Not the same as the book. This is published by Random House, New York. Because you've got to love these pictures by Dr. Seuss and the full story by Dr. Seuss. And whoever reads it to you puts their own love into the story and therefore into you as the listener. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. There he is. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. His heart was like a walnut. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. And here he is staring down at the warmly lit little homes. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise, noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise. Especially when kids are banging drums or playing recorders or just playing with noisy toys. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. Here's their big, sumptuous feast being carried out of the kitchen to their banquet table. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I gotta stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. You think? All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, then he took some red thread and tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, giddy-up, and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Do you hang a stocking up? I hung mine in the window. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates and drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums. and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimbly, stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimbley. Look at the look on his face. Oh, he's pulling off the lights. Shame. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who. Little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and she said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Wow, that's just gives you the chills. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. Look at him, he tips his hat to the mouse. Ooh. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. Wow. Oh, you can see, do you see the dawn is coming? Dawn, like those little like red lines are supposed to be the sunlight coming over the mountain. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he was grinchiously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a moment or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. Look at him. He's ready to dump it. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing, without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart, grew 3 sizes that day. Hey, can you make the heart? Wait, make that heart, make it grow. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. Oh, he's even blowing the trumpet. Dun, da, da. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast